Flash me. What's up, and Mr. Mark Bare Naked Willie? How are you today, my friend?
Happy Friday, Dave Cooper. Here we are again. 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific.
Every Friday. We haven't missed a Friday yet.
2+ years, Dave, and we got a great show. So I'm happy we're here. Where's everyone watching us from?
Ooh, they're going to be watching us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. So get your tweets on if you're not tweeting already. And be sure to make sure you follow the Mark Bare Naked Willie and all the fun that he's up to in the world. And also all of our guests that are coming on today. We got a big show for you today. And in fact, it's so big, it's almost like a quarter of a $250,000 big show, which is fun. We got somebody with a huge YouTube following, somebody that is an architect, somebody that believes in building science, and we have another woman in our field to help make it better, because we need more women in this industry, because they are, in my mind, wicked smart. If they're
wicked smart.
Yeah. Wicked smart.
All right. So do we have any surprises, Dave?
We do. We always have a surprise.
I'm ready.
Oh, you want to share it? Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay. We can share surprises. All right, let's do it. Because in the house, looks like we got the big dogs joining us today. What's happening, you two?
Happy International Flashing Day, guys.
Yeah, I love it. Happy International Flashing Day to you guys as well. How are you two making out since our awesome trip to Switzerland?
We're tired.
Good thing today's a holiday, right?
Can you guys hear us okay?
I can hear you guys now. There's a little
perfect
in a second, but we're back on it. But you've got an amazing lineup today, Dave.
We do. We do have an amazing lineup. It seems like each week they always seem to get better and better. And, you know, everything we do, Aaron, it's kind of like yourselves at Big Dog. It's like Mark. It's all about bringing the industry together. It's about educating people and people that have taken their own time to go out there and make it better for other people. And I think that's what's so great about these shows. Not only what we do, but what you guys do as well. So if you're not following Big Dog, you guys need to be following what they're doing as well. You got a pretty amazing Instagram channel as well, right?
Appreciate that, Dave. I genuinely appreciate that. But one of your guests today, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with her on our Swiss trip. Had a couple of brief conversations, but as you well know, having been on that trip, that was work. There was something going on every second to pay attention to. But you should, if you're not already following along some of Belinda's social media stuff, you should take a second and check out Belinda Carr. She's doing some amazing things.
Like the Belinda Carr? Like the YouTuber Belinda Carr, the architect Belinda Carr, the Belinda Carr that was in Switzerland?
Definitely the architect Belinda Carr, the lady who's a huge fan of building science. It's probably one of my regrets on that trip is I didn't get more time to talk with her and Chase about building science in general, but a week wasn't long enough.
Well, that's what happens when you're popular and smart at the same time. Everybody wants to talk to them. I didn't even get a chance to get in that big long line. So I think you're right. I think we all need more time together and traveling together. And I think it's pretty darn cool what Belinda has done. And why don't we bring her on to the show? I mean, I hate talking behind people's backs so much.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Belinda
hey
Carr
guys.
in the house. How are you, Belinda?
Blushing. Turning red.
Blushing. Hey, so you guys don't know this, but, you know, in our own minds, Belinda and I won the flashing competition.
Oh, Siga. In our own minds. Okay.
We were on a team and we nailed it, except we had one little corner needed fixed. But, yep, the people that build the least with their hands.
You know, I heard that you guys left that corner not perfect just to see if everyone was paying attention. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and they caught us.
Belinda, welcome to the show. We love doing those surprises. To have Gina and Aaron do it, the surprise fresh off your trip.
Yeah, hey guys, I wasn't expecting y'all to be on the show.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. And Dave's got some questions for you that we always start with. So I hope you're prepared for questions.
Yeah.
Whew, I'll do my best to answer them.
That's right. That is right. So, Aaron and Gina, thank you so much for the intro. Go ahead and stay there while I set Belinda
Holidays
up.
over, Dave. Sorry, man. The holiday's over. Back to work.
You got to go to work. Oh, man. Look at that.
Gina, Aaron, have a great Friday. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.
See you guys. Perfect. Good. All right,
Perfect.
Let me take time out of here. Let me switch you to on. All right, Belinda. Now is the time. We want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will call your mother. And just so you know, Mrs. Willie, Mark's mom, attends the show regularly, and we will have her on as well, and it could get quite embarrassing for you. So we want it all, and you only have 2 minutes to do it. The floor is yours. Go for it.
Whew. Okay. 2 minutes for a complete background. That's so born and brought up in Dubai, lived there for most of my life, 23 years, got my bachelor's in architecture over there, and came to the States 10 years ago for my master's. And soon after graduating, I realized I wasn't happy with the architecture field. There was an itch to learn more and do more and figure out what else was there in the industry. So I started my YouTube channel back in 2019, I believe, just sharing scripts and on Python, Dynamo scripting, and the YouTube channel has kind of evolved into this big, awesome part of my life, all-consuming part of my life, but still awesome part of my life. And on my YouTube channel, I try to learn something new every day, share it with the rest of the world, and explore this vast and always changing field of building science and material science. And that's what I'm up to these days.
Love it. So it all starts from a passion somewhere. And I want to see, my heart's saying I want to jump into Dubai, because I did a presentation to Sheikh Mohammed once in my previous life in Dubai at that. It's called the Palace. You know where the Palace is?
The Abu Dhabi.
It's a big hotel.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a quarter mile long, right? All
in
the
Abu Dhabi, right?
In Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
Not Dubai, right? In Abu Dhabi. But we ended up flying to Dubai, but it's a whole nother story. But we're going to talk about this offline.
Okay. All right.
I'll tell you some things. Anywho, but let's get into the building science on this, because I think it always starts from a passion, right, Mark? This is what we always say. You were out there, you're a trained architect, and you weren't happy.
Not licensed architect, but went through architecture school. Didn't do that final step. I got too jaded right before. Yeah.
Right? You know enough to be dangerous. But what was it that made you sit there and go, you know what, I'm just not happy with how we're doing things? I mean, that's kind of like, there's something that spurred you to want to be on the educational side of this as well.
Yeah, because first of all, there's a vast difference between the theoretical education taught in school versus practical education out in practical work experience out in when you get to your 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And I just expected far more than just being a draftsperson or a CAD monkey. And it felt very defeating to be reduced to that role after 8 years of education. And I knew that there was something better out there. There was something more. And anytime I approached someone at the companies that I worked at about scripting or just being less reliant on manual labor, looking at whether I could automate daily tasks with a simple Python script or a Dynamo script. It's not complicated. It's things that we could have done in the workplace, but I was always shot down. So as I was telling you just before the show, during my 8 to 5, I was always told no. So after my 8 to 5, I went out there and started looking at what I could do to be better, to be a better designer, to be a better architect, to be more efficient, not just work hard, but work smart. So I started learning Python, learning Dynamo, and building all these scripts and sharing it on my YouTube channel. And that's my driver behind the channel, learning that desire to learn something new and be better. Tomorrow, I'm a better person than who I am today.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's truly, remarkable when we have people that, like yourself, who come up with that conclusion of, how can we be better tomorrow? How can we make the built environment better? And not only because, you're into it, but because you're passionate and you believe in it. I mean, you live and breathe this stuff on your YouTube channel every day. And we're going to get into a presentation you have here in a minute as well. But, Mark, I think, when we look at somebody like Belinda, who, I mean, you really came out of left field, like within the last 2 years, like, who's this Belinda? And all of a sudden we're seeing Belinda everywhere. And then we get to spend time together on a trip. I think, it's amazing that you can go from, not really making an impact other than in your own world to such a huge impact that you have now with so many followers.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's been one of the most, not want to say rewarding because that might sound egoistic, but when on LinkedIn, having people in the architecture industry from big architecture firms approach me and send me messages about how they have watched my channel, watched my scripting videos, or watched my series on installation and use that knowledge to better themselves in the architecture field. That's nice because that was my ultimate hope, that it helps the architecture industry or helps the AEC industry as a whole. And this YouTube channel has, I never imagined that it would get to this point, but it's been wonderful that.
So I think it's always remarkable when, and I'm echoing a lot what Dave says. We share these mindsets when we prep for these shows. And when you create a vision of how things can be, and then you take that to your nights and weekends, like you said, outside of the 8 to 5, not everyone has that capacity or vision to do that because of what our 8 to 5s do with our routine. And so simply that example is a point of inspiration for others. The next segue I would say from that is your style on the YouTube of how you bring up subjects and then take people through it. You're very right. There's a pattern to your language that some people try and do that in the world all the time, and they can't do it. You've created that style, and I hope that many people replicate it or find their own because of the example you said.
I think that's wonderful. Find your own is the key, because as an architect or as an introvert, I'm sorry, let me just say that again. As an architect, we're typically introverts. So I'm not, and you could probably tell that on our trip to Switzerland, Dave. My husband and I too, we both come from the architecture background. We were quieter. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And that's something I struggle with every day. I'm not outspoken. I'm not like the people in the construction field or certain engineers or something where I have a different personality. So my presentation style is more straightforward and direct and more serious and like jot through I go like jump from one point to another because that is my personality. And I can't force myself to be someone else, So everyone has a different personality. Find your own style. If you're passionate about a subject, there are 100 different ways to present that particular topic. You don't have to be someone else in order to be popular or make a difference in your field.
Have you ever heard the phrase ribbing, right? When it's typically a guy will rib another guy, so they poke at him, right? They poke at their ribs.
Okay.
So my ribbing for today is you guys weren't quiet on the trip. You didn't have the ability to speak louder than Chris from Live Free, right?
Yeah.
He was so loud. I kept on telling Dave and Aaron when we were talking offline about things. And I love it when people are in an environment and they shine because of the environment. It's so great. Great comment. And Jennifer's popping in there too. So we should pause for a second, Dave. Do the hellos and let's jump into the presentation after, if that's cool.
Oh, I love presentations. It's like opening a box of candy. All right. I put it up already, but you got the attention of Jerry McCahey. I don't know if you know Jerry, but he's pretty passionate and outspoken himself and one of the biggest leaders in the offsite industry. What's up, Jerry McCahey?
I would add, Belinda, next time you're in California, and hopefully you're out there with Dave and Jennifer and the kids, go visit Jerry. He has an incredible facility, but also he is the creator of my favorite quote. and that is precision equals performance. It's my all-time favorite quote, and I always make sure people know that it's his, because I can't take responsibility for something that massive.
I got one too.
All right.
The profit is in the process.
Oh, right. Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah. If we ever make those T-shirts, Jerry, you'll get 10 cents for every $20 we make. I guarantee
That's
it.
right. That's right. Well, he's already paying us like 5 cents every time we say his name today. All right. All right. Actually, Jerry's a good friend. Love Jerry to death. Love it.
Yep.
All right. Titus Dare's in the house. Hi, Dave. Great to see you and today's guest, Best. Titus, good to see you. Titus Dare, always a pleasure when you tune in. And of course, you know, Belinda, if you do not know this next individual, he comes to us live from Twitch just about every day. He hangs out with the young kids out there. Greg Ugaldi. Greg Ugaldi is the chair of the National Association of Home Builders, the big dog. Well, he's the past chair now. Doesn't get much higher than that, the NAHB. So Greg does a regular update on our show once a month as well. Yep. Greg, good to see you, my friend. I hope all is well with you. So thank you.
The king of Twitch, they call him. The king of Twitch.
The king of Twitch. That's right. All the young kids look up to him. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And then we got Buzz Holitzer in the house. Buzz says, Fappy Friday. Well, Fappy Friday to you, Buzz. I hope you are well, and I hope you're doing some mud running in your four-wheelers. Loves them four-wheelers. And we got Michael Bruce. Oh, we got a question from Henry, too, coming up. There's a lot of CAD monkeys out there, like Belinda, who are often shut down by their employers who threaten to rock the boat with new and important ideas and solutions to everyday problems.
I tell you, Jennifer, if we can mark this time, it was, I think, about 40 seconds or a minute and 40 seconds into Belinda's entry. When she said CAD monkeys, Belinda, when we sell those T-shirts, you'll also get 10 cents for every $20 profit.
That's it. That's it. Jerry likes us. He says we're kind.
Perfect.
Yeah,
all right.
Wait until the end of the show, Jerry. We're not done with you.
Yeah.
All right. Henry Mickelberg has a question, and you can actually see everybody's face. Usually it's about 7 or 8 paragraphs. Given that tech is rapidly changing the traditional architect role, what do you think an architect job will look like in 10 years? Less academic or more coding, generative design, for example?
Ooh, that's something we can discuss at the end of this.
Perfect.
Perfect. So right, we're going to save that for the Henry Mickelberg got shut down. First time ever on this show. We'll talk about it again.
What Belinda did is she did a tactic, right? And she's saying, stay tuned. That's right. Yeah, we learned something, Dave. Okay.
I'm not seeing much of an introvert, quite honestly. I have to tell you.
I know, right?
That's put a camera in front of her. I know what it is. All right. So why don't we hop into the presentation? We're already about 20 minutes into our show here. Why don't we get to it? You ready, Belinda?
Oh.
I am.
I'll put it up for you. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Look at that. Beautiful. Looks perfect.
Oh, just pull some images off Google. I hope no one takes offense to that. This may have some copyright issues, but it's just for our presentation, so it's good.
It's shared openly. It's not for profit. It is for we always believe in collaboration and sharing. So if this is your image, we're very pleased to share it with the universe.
That's a good way of putting it. Thanks. All right. So the overall theme for my presentation, and I won't talk for too long, but it's going to be the architect's role in building better. What it has been historically, what it needs to be, where it's failing, and what the architect can, how the architect can evolve to play a larger role in this industry. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I got my bachelor's at the American University of Sharjah in the UAE. I got my master's at the University of Cincinnati. But after 8 years of education, it was very disappointing. It wasn't, the architecture industry was not what I thought it was going to be. And like I said, I was constantly shut down whenever I brought up something innovative or a way to do something better. There was just such a high reliance on manual labor and such a resistance to change. And I think, so now I'm kind of jumping now, but it kind of hit me once I got out in the field and I moved to the States and I started seeing all these beautiful buildings in the States, things that I had seen in my books in the UAE during my undergrad. And I
Yep.
started visiting these amazing buildings by Frank Gehry or Le Corbusier and all these historic buildings. And I started experiencing them too. Some of them were incredible, some of them were a massive letdown. And it was an eye-opening experience. And I started questioning this battle between form and function. Things this idea is constantly discussed in the architecture education, but I started thinking about it a lot more. And I realized that buildings not only need to look good and be inspirational, and spaces have to evoke this uh, sense of this strong feelings in a person, but it has to function really well too. Because for example, let's talk about a real world example to demonstrate what I'm explaining. The MIT Strata Center by Frank Gehry, awesome on paper, awesome in renderings. And we learned about this in architecture school. I visited this building and was extremely disappointed with how it has failed. You can
Talk
clearly
about
see.
Flashing Awareness Day. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Maybe this is appropriate for the shirt and the theme of this theme for today. The issues with water penetration are just it's deplorable. There has been so much money and so many lawsuits just because the architect didn't realize the repercussions of sticking a window out rather than having a recessed window. And you can clearly see the facade failing on this image, and even the spaces inside, like the whole building itself is um, it's very imaginative, and the spaces inside are imaginative too, but seeing the building fail takes away all that, all the form of it, the inspiration of it is just negated by the fact that the building fails. I
Yeah. And aesthetically, right? While that's a cool, out of this world experience, kind of to have that thing there. I mean, let's face it, windows make or break buildings. And in this case, we know it broke it.
Yeah. So that kind of got me when I visited this like 5 years ago. So it got me thinking more about how a building works, how it functions, not just how it looks, but how it works straight when it's open. And then 50 years down the line, how does it age? How does it patina? Not it. And it's so much more than, like, I realized that architecture has to be so much more than just forms, you know? Um, and I just have two examples for this, but the big battle of pitched versus flat roofs. When you go through architecture school, undergrad, grad, whatever, pitched roofs are a big no. That is, and there's no discussion on the importance of pitched roofs, the value that it does bring. It's just black or white. It's not that every building should have a flat roof, because aesthetically that's far more pleasing. We don't even have the discussion of how often flat roofs fail and the reason why we need pitched roofs. Just something as simple as that. Like, let's focus less on the shape and more on the function.
It's
Yeah.
so interesting to hear your thoughts on that. Aesthetically, I am turned off like nobody's business on pitched roofs and dormers. If it's symmetrical, great. I like balance, but good God, there's not enough craftsmen out there to create those things. And typically, if you're going to create that kind of design, then it's funny. The theme for today is also now, how in the heck do you flash it? Because I look at some of these things here and I'm like, oh, good night. This is a water hog nightmare.
But at the same time, there's some value to it. It does feel, at least from research I've done in the buildings I've visited and all that, flat roofs can have a lot of water leaking, lot of water penetration issues. I mean, it just depends whether it's it's built the right way, and you take all the other building science considerations. Like, you can build this perfectly well, you can build a flat roof perfectly well. It's not one or the other. It depends on the circumstance. It depends.
I have an interesting comment for you. So right now we're looking at this for the water on the outside. Here's my interesting comment because let's say Texas, for example. If you have this roof, okay, fine. But please, for the love of all things good, do not run your mechanical ducts through that because you've got 140 degrees in this interesting thing for saving water. Got it. But it is a nightmare for mechanical systems. So part of me is programmed to say, how can we do one task so we're eliminating mistakes in other areas? And by the way, in all of these photographs, there's only one window that has shutters, but it's on a crazy top gable that no one could ever reach. But at least there's shutters.
Where did you see that?
So it's
The
in
yellow house.
Yeah, the yellow.
Oh yeah, okay, I see that.
Yellow
Mhm.
gable. It's probably not operable shutters, which is a funny thing.
That's another thing.
In
just-
America, you guys were just overseas where shutters are a functional
Yes.
thing. Like,
So what is
So-
better, pitched or flat? What's
It's-
better?
I don't think it's one or the other.
it
And
depends.
It depends on the situation. It depends on the type of building, and each one can be built perfectly and perform well, but it's not a black or white situation.
So I'll turn around and I'll confuse the point even more. Instead of pitched, instead of flat, how about shed? I love shed roofs.
Okay.
Aesthetically or functionally?
Yes.
Okay.
Because of site orientation and how you harness the sun and how you collect the water, the carpenter now has to do the framing each stud differently in most applications. So that's unique, but it's not as difficult as these gables that you're seeing here. Those are very difficult framing things, and
And expensive too, yeah.
Yeah, expensive, right?
Yeah.
You notice how there's not a gable on those false chimneys, right?
Mhm.
Those are flat. So there you have it.
That's true. I didn't
Funny.
expect to be talking about roofs for this long.
I know. It's a great picture. So
Oh, welcome to Mark's
I'm going to
world.
turn my mic off.
No.
welcome to
It's
Mark's
good.
world.
It's good.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the thing, right? Like, so it depends is the answer. So is it really one versus another one, or is it one versus another one depending on the environment that you're in and what the opportunities are to harness the environment?
Also, all these roofs are, some caliber of asphalt, right?
Mhm.
In what we're seeing here, but
All of them.
you're gonna see things that some people don't necessarily see a lot of. And I happen to love clay tile roofs. I think they're incredible, especially the fired versions. And standing seam is my all-time, especially vented and insulated standing seam.
Okay. So here's a good comment that let's just put it up real quick here.
Yeah.
Steve Burrows,
Oh,
one of the smartest guys in the industry,
yep.
a fellow introvert as well. By the way, I've hung out with Steve. He's not very introvert when I'm hanging out with him. By the way, form follows finance, not function, I think. Right?
It's a great point to bring up, right? There's things taken out of projects, and let's say a lesser version is included, and we don't necessarily call that a fix. We call that a flop.
Mhm.
Well, how about this comment then? Henry says, trying to make building design more efficient and therefore less fee earning is an excellent way to make you a really unpopular member of the architectural practice.
You're so funny, Henry. In all my life, I've never saw a better program than the Sears kit houses. The Sears kit houses had a style for everyone, and it was truly the building shell, and your sweat equity later on took care of the rest of the house. But the shell was the focus, and it appealed to each group. They had a style for everyone. We're missing that today. We have a lot of cookie cutter crappy crap.
All right, I'm going to do one more quick comment. Well, two quick. I'm going to do a statement and then a comment real quick. So only 2% of single family homes have an architect involved, according
What?
to Steve.
That's true.
What?
Well, it's true. Think about it. You got the biggest builders in the country are like the top 8, and they already have all their designs planned. They don't have to go get architect stamps on every one of them because they're building the same cookie cutter stuff across the country.
And under a certain square footage, you don't need to get an architect involved.
Yeah, depending where. Well, depending. Yeah, but
Yeah,
you're right.
Your,
In a lot of
municipality. Yeah, I've never not had an architect and an engineer involved ever.
I know, but
ever,
you've never built just regular standards either, Mark. You've always built above code. All right, Peter Molinar. The argument for pitch versus flat roof must consider the ambient live load. Pitch roofs shed precipitation much better than flat roofs. So there it is. All right.
I take issue with that, Peter. You used F's instead of PH, so let's make sure we correct that, bud.
All right, just so the rest of the world understands, PH stands for passive house, and the passive house community likes to make every F a PH. So it's not that Mark's a bad speller. It's just how it should be spelled. You'll see it'll be in the Webster Dictionary next year. I promise you. All right, let's get back to this. All right, Belinda, this looks familiar.
Yeah. So I just want to say that my journey looking at architecture more critically and the future of architecture kind of led me to building my YouTube channel, where I try to dissect building science, material science, products and technology into its elemental form and present it in a really unbiased manner. And that's what's so great about the YouTube community. Yeah, there are lots of bad things about it too, but everyone on my videos, people discuss it because they have a desire to learn something new, right? Everyone's coming with an interest, and it's not and they understand that things are not black and white. Like in the media, everything is presented as black and white, but building science and material science, there's so much gray area in it, because we're constantly learning something, changing the way we think about materials, and then the next month or the next year, we can present something in a completely different way. For example, air barriers versus vapor retarders. Just a couple of years ago, the whole discussion on their usage was completely different than now, because we have learned so many lessons over the past decade and we know better now. So everything I present on my channel, I try to talk about the pros and cons and compare it to other things, because like it's a learning experience for me. It's a learning experience for the community too. And it's never black and white. Like whether we're talking about wood buildings or insulation or carbon credits or green energy, it's never one's the best thing in the world and it's going to solve all our problems, or it's the worst thing that we can possibly do. Maybe unless we talk about shipping containers, but that's a whole different topic.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get into that. It won't be this time. It'll be next time. I had a couple people call me and they say, make sure you battle her when it comes to shipping containers. And I smiled, Belinda, and Dave knows this about me. And I said, I don't battle people. I look at every opportunity as a chance to listen and learn. Yeah. Right. And I've watched not all of your videos. I aspire to watch all of them, but I learn every time. And some of these subjects are things that I've done personally for a long time. You just said something a minute ago that I wanted to bring up, and you said vapor retarders. So the funny thing about what you said is when Dave and I started, there wasn't even the word vapor retarders. No one ever used it. All we were handed, Dave, you remember this, we were handed a roll of poly and we said, we were told, put it in. We weren't told why. We weren't told how. We weren't told what it was doing. We weren't told how to do it well, right? We were not air sealing specialists or air bosses or any of those things. We were said, here's poly. That's it. We were never told anything else.
That's it. 4 mil or 6 mil. That's what you got.
Yeah. And later on, I started using 10 and 12, right?
Yeah. Right. All right, let's keep moving here. I'm going to go back to the slide deck here. We're at 140. So let's go.
Wow. Okay.
Master Builder.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So what I've taken away from this is, what's the role of the architect in building better? Because right now we're so focused on aesthetics. So I think there's this really cool quote I read: architecture has been reduced to cosmetics. And that kind of hit me when I read that in an article. It's not
You
true
mean
in
like
all cases.
eyeliner and lipstick?
Because
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Mark, it's
yeah.
not Saturday night for you, buddy. It's not Saturday night. All right. We're still on Friday.
But that's the funny part about cosmetics, right? That's
It
your
is
whole
more.
point.
Yeah. And we have to get past the superficial, the renderings, and look at how a building actually works. And to me, like, architects had their glory days when they were called the master builder, but that's not reality anymore. Construction has evolved since then, and every field is so specialized. Like the engineers, there are 100 different types of engineers. There are people out in the field that are specialized too. And as an architect, you cannot possibly know everything that they know. So I think we need a lot more humility in the architecture industry and the AEC industry as a whole. And we need to communicate. I feel like and architects can play that role now in being the communicator, because even in school, there's a lot of, I know I'm bashing architecture school and bashing architects a lot, but there is a lot of value in architecture education,
Yeah.
especially in terms of critical thinking, tearing projects apart, building them back up, figuring out the good and the bad in it. That's ingrained in us, and that's really a big part of our education. So if we build on that and learn and add this value of external communication, not just within our industry, but all the other industries, then we can play a bigger role in the future of construction. We can still be the jack of all trades, but have intelligent discussions with the material scientists, with the HVAC experts, and I don't know. That's what I hope, and that's what I envision the architecture industry evolving to,
So
being
you're saying
not
that
just
that's the
being
next
renderers, but being communicators.
So this goes back to
next
Henry's comment.
evolution. Got it.
So
So Dave, did you know there's something that I learned at the beginning of that statement, Belinda? You said that architects were once called master builders.
Yes, about I don't know, 60 to 100 years ago or so, that was the
Interesting.
term.
Not master
So
designers, master builders.
Master builders.
Whenever
That
there
wouldn't
was
go over well, man.
awkwardness with an architect, right? I've worked with lots of architects, and sometimes there's awkwardness just because of the stress, right? We know how that works with both manufacturers and contractors. If I ever wanted to get their goat, I would always say, well, I hope you realize that I'm a self-taught architect. And boy, if you could get people to get unglued when you do that kind of stuff. So little secret to that. And I bring that up because you said master builder. And in all my years, I've never learned that. And I think it's incredible. That is really interesting.
Maybe because back then fields were not so highly specialized, they were able to know a lot more about each individual field and be that glue that binds everything together. But they haven't, at least from my experience, the industry hasn't evolved. They're kind of clinging on to those days and not recognizing the value in every other industry, because we can't be arrogant anymore and think that people out on the job sites know less than we do. They know far more than we do, because they're hands on. They can really bring a lot of value to the architecture industry. And unfortunately, because that arrogance still exists, architects are being reduced to a joke. Like, I have engineers in my family. I have my brother-in-law's a GC, and I have conversations with them every day, and that's been really beneficial because it helped me understand the value of every other field.
Yep.
And how architects are viewed by other people. So
It's an amazing thing when you sit down with your team in the field, the GC, the MEP contractors, the excavator, the utility companies in a room with the designer, the architect, or structural engineer. The amount of issues that are resolved in that couple hours in a room before you even move one pebble is mind-boggling, and it just blows my mind that the world hasn't figured that out yet. That one meeting can save probably a ton of headaches, a ton of time, and a ton of scheduling issues, because they all know their respective fields better than anybody, just like you said. And they know when there's a plumbing and electrical issues and what the distance needs to be and all this other stuff where codes change. So that's a great point.
And
That's
what's
why
funny is that my last two podcasts that I've held, I had the same point brought up on both of the podcasts, and it's that architects always forget about an adequate plenum space. We, it's floor to ceiling height 8 feet. That's all we need, right? We forget about ductwork, just something as simple as that. Like if you were communicating with people and you knew about something as simple as ductwork, you wouldn't be a joke at the end of the day and say, "Oh, the architect
Right.
forgot to account for that space."
So that's why I use ductless midi splits, because I don't have the space for anything. You know,
But that's what's great, like this show and the YouTube channel or TikTok and all these other social media outlets. We should use that to encourage more communication. Like I love that you bring on people from various parts of the AEC industry, because everyone has something to contribute and everything is of value. So the more talks, the more discussions we can have, the better the AEC industry will be as a whole.
Yeah.
Collaboration and communication. That's why I like the voluntary certification programs out there, because they ushered in those design charrettes. None of us ever heard the word design charrette before LEED and the USGBC came around, right? And we always wanted it. We don't want to show up and then have to figure it out. And then the offsite community with their incredible digital twinning and building everything once digitally. This is a benefit for everyone. And we have a philosophy in our family, right? I come from a family of builders and suppliers. We all say all homes should be built twice. In the digital world, we can do that. And we can Minecraft our way out of problems.
And like I said, I've bashed the industry a lot, but we kind of, at least for me, we're trained to be these jack of all trades. Like we can understand a BIM model and break it down to its basics. We can also understand how a building comes together, how it looks, how it functions. So we need to build on that skill. This is like a crucial time where we need to build on it, so we're not just thinking about the shape of these things, but how they work together.
Yes.
So.
Yep. So let's hop back into it here. Let's wrap up what we got on the slides, and we got a couple more really intelligent comments to get to. So
that's all I have for y'all right now. But
perfect.
And there's bubble wrap. Can you go back to that photo? There's bubble wrap in that photo.
Yep, that's one of the insulation materials that I explored in my insulation series on YouTube.
I haven't seen you do that version. I haven't
seen that. Was a very distracting video to make because I constantly took breaks while doing that.
It's a therapeutic material. Are those little bubbles? What's the R value of those little bubbles, Belinda?
Yeah, so the material actually has films of like foil sandwiched in between, but no, it doesn't rely just on R value.
Yeah. There you go. Right. Almost missed BS Friday.
George Ryman, what's up, buddy?
It's good afternoon. Oh no, Arizona, it is still good morning. Yeah, he's a little behind us on the time zones.
Let's go to a couple more comments, and
we have a question from Henry that we.
Yeah, we'll get back. We'll get back to Henry. I'm kind of enjoying letting Henry sweat it out in the background there, but if I'm not too careful, it'll really get sarcastic quick. I understand. I know how his brain works. Jerry says, "What about my favorite, Field Verify? Never say that until I move to the U.S. What does that say about architects?" So here's the thing, Jerry. All right, Jerry. This is the Jerry McCaughey Belinda show at the moment. But Jerry would always say the greatest offsite builders in the world, and I use this often, and I always quote Jerry, is NASA. Do you think they designed the new piece to the space shuttle that's up there, the space station, and they get up there, and on the plans it says Field Verify, and they realize they got to make a couple quarter of an inch change in the measurements, and they got to go back to Earth to fix what they were going to connect up there.
Or they're given a set of metric screwdrivers.
I don't believe in change orders anymore. I know too much. I'm off it. And Jerry and I talk about this as well. If a mason ever tells me again that they're off by a half inch, they're going to rip the whole thing out because they're a master mason, aren't they? They should have it right and level, especially if you're building off-site.
But that's that in the architect's defense, things don't always go right on job sites. So that's like a CYA thing, that this is what I asked you to do, but out on the job site, that's probably not what it's going to be, because it wasn't done right on job sites. So
But if they were using the latest and greatest technology and BIM and having all their meetings with their trades, there'd be
but there's
a heck
still
of a lot
human
less.
intervention. If it was
Yeah.
purely robotic, then maybe, but there's still human intervention in what's done on job sites. So there's always going to be room for error.
You are going to get
Well,
Jerry
robots are
McCarthy going.
programmed by humans, right? So
That's
that could
true.
be
So
wrong
there's
too.
There's that side of
there's
it.
a
Yes.
bias in that as well. Yep.
Yeah.
You
I
know, what's funny to me is, so there's a comment earlier that 2% of the homes are have an architect, and that's interesting to me, because my problems with the process is that plans and permits are for the municipal to stamp them and approve them, more for the zoning, right? However, that's not a blueprint on how to build the structure. It's not, right? There's a huge disclaimer on your plan set that basically tells you to figure it out. And if it's right, give the credit, right? If it's wrong, it's your responsibility. We need plan sets that are specific information. You want me to read that, Dave? Is that what you're
Yeah,
pointing?
go ahead. Let's read it. This will be the last question of the day. So let's do it.
Henry Mickelberg, given that tech is rapidly changing in the traditional architect role, what do you think an architect's job will look like in 10 years? Question mark. Less academic and more coding? Generative design, for example?
I believe the field of generative design has rapidly improved over the last years, where we're not just thinking about form for the sake of form, but definitely what it means and how it impacts the building. But generative design is a specialized field. I think we're still going to have the architecture field kind of needs to break up in that sense and realize that we have the specialties, but we also need this core architect that is the communicator, that is the coordinator, and that has a more like high level view of what's going on job sites, whether it's AR, whether it's like virtual reality, augmented reality, and the role that the BIM field plays with what's going on, like physical construction. That I don't know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe
So-
we need more acronyms and more confusing. Right? Dave always says, what are we supposed to say when there's 10 different groups saying 10 different things? And it depends.
Yeah.
All right. I knew you were going to get Jerry going, and we were going to end it with this right here. The expression field verified in my world means either the architect figured it out beforehand or can't be bothered with off-site. We don't have the luxury. We have to figure it out before it goes on-site, and we do. And he's right. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a way to do it. Now, you don't know everything that's in the ground. We don't have X-ray vision. That's a little bit different. But I think from a structural standpoint, the way of how we used to do it, like that room full of people drawing, is much different. And though there is still room for error, there's a lot of us out here that have figured it out. I think it needs to be brought forward. And Jerry's one of them.
You know, an interesting thing, Belinda, a lot of people see what Jerry does and they say, well, he does panelized construction. That is
Right.
only a small part of it. As Dave mentioned, it's the process. But before they bring the walls in, they set the staircase inside of there. Then they put in the walls and the platform and the stairs and the roof. All of those things are measured and dropped. And I tell you, you can take a camera to every stud and every connection, and it fits like all the parts on an airplane, snug as a bug in a rug.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, I mean, Belinda, I think what you're doing is great, because you are pushing the envelope with your own community and getting them to think better. And, you know, it's always fun when we have these conversations from architectural side of things versus offsite side of things. And I really think what would be super cool is to bring the architectural world, like you have, more into conversations with the offsite world, like the Jerry McCaughey's, myself, and others of the world, because I think it would be the best debate ever. right? Because there is that intertwine. You know, we think one way, you think another, or they think another, what have you. But the fact that you're out there rocking the boat and rocking how we think of things with your own community, I love it. Don't quit. Obviously, it's working.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be too negative about all of this, but I hope it comes off as constructive criticism for the industry, the architects, and then the industry as a whole. It's not meant to be all doom and gloom and negative all the time. Maybe
Yeah.
it comes off as that way, but that's not my intention.
Well, you know, if we don't point out where we could do better, then
Then
we're going
how
to
are
be
we
doing
going
the
to
same.
exactly? Yeah, we're just
So-
going to keep doing the same thing.
I
Well, I
think
mean,
you're
that's-
very positive and you're very enlightening on the topics you give, and that's why everyone keeps coming back for more. You don't stand in the Belinda Carr line once. You keep going. After you get to the front of the line, you go back and you wait for the next episode, because that's what
very
it's all about.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, both of you. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, Belinda, thank you so much for joining us. Belinda, go ahead, plug your YouTube channel real quick so everybody knows where to find you.
Sure. I have a YouTube channel called Belinda Carr. I also run a podcast called Belinda Carr Podcast. Pretty simple, straightforward. And I'm trying to be more active on social media on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. I've got to learn from all the guys on the Swiss trip. They were putting me to shame.
Yeah,
Those
you
are some of the best in the business, right? And they're learning from you. That's what we do. We all share.
Yeah,
the best at Instagram or the best at building?
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Did
Really.
one or the other?
I still haven't figured out Instagram, but it's on my to-do list. I hope I can get there and play with the big boys.
Just
one of
ask
these
your
days.
daughters. They'll figure it
know.
out. They could do everything.
I love it. I love it. All right, listen, everyone, thank you so much for watching today. Belinda, thank you for joining us today. High five. Love it. And for the rest of you out there, I will see you tomorrow morning, Coffee with Dave. So make sure you tune in for that. We have a big week coming up for you next week as well. So look forward to it. Mark, always a pleasure. Belinda, always a pleasure. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back to you after the outro, Belinda, and everybody else out there. Go enjoy some time with your family. Have a wonderful evening. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow with some good old Coffee with Dave. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Bye.